Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. I've been getting many questions from subscribers about how to grow their orchids in moss. Several people are beginners on my channel, welcome, and also there's many people who are just now growing in moss for the first time. So I just wanted to go over some things that we're seeing with our moss orchids that are a little bit different than with waterculture or sometimes with bark. So I wanted to show you, I have this root right here. And I don't know if you can see it for the color of the moss, but it's brown. It's right here. It goes right through to here. And you don't even see it very well. Now you can see it in the light. Okay, so what do I do about this? I don't do anything about this. This is my little starfowl that I've had in moss now for about 6 months. And as you remember, growing in this moss was my last ditch effort to try to save this little fowl, and she's done so very well in the moss. But I noticed that as soon as I put her in the moss, this root that was probably rotting anyway went ahead and rotted when I placed it in the moss. If you have a root or two in your media that has rotted, that is no big deal. You don't take it like you do with waterculture. You view it a little bit differently. With waterculture, you want to trim back all the dead roots. And so your eye is attuned to looking for dead roots, which is probably a really good thing. If your pot is full of rotted dead roots in moss, then I would suggest you need to go ahead and repot it in some fresh moss because there's something going on there. And I would go ahead and check that out. But if you see 1 or 2 mushy brown roots in your moss, I really wouldn't think too much about it. Growing in waterculture definitely has made me a better grower, but you've got to remember that in moss, that is a different type of a media. And if you have a brown root in moss, it's just not going to hurt anything because the media dries out and those roots are not constantly wet like they are with waterculture. I'll show you another for instance, and I'm going to have to really look to see which one this one is. Give me a second because this one this one is a really, really healthy one. There's a root right here, and it's brown on the outside. But on the inside, if you turn it, the inside of that root is green. So that root is absolutely fine. Even if it was in waterculture, I would leave it there. So, you just kind of have to remember to keep a balance when you're growing in media. If you see a rotten root, media is a lot more forgiving with a rotten root than waterculture is. If you let your roots rot in waterculture, then it stunts the growth of the entire plant. If it happens in media, like I said, let's keep everything in balance. Just 1 or 2 brown roots, that's not going to harm anything. If you have a whole pot full of dead roots, though, you're going to need to go ahead and repot it. And here's another example. This is a fowl that I placed in moss about a month ago. The roots are doing very well. The plant is very well hydrated. But as you see, this root tip has turned black. It's no problem. That's the only one that I can find that's black. As you see, this one's getting a new root here. So, just take an overall look at your plant. Is it doing well? Is it thriving? That is the basis of growing in moss is when most of your roots look really, really good, you're just going to leave the plant alone. So that's a lot different mindset than it is with waterculture. So I wanted to kind of delineate the difference for you just a little bit. Okay, so now let's take an example in bark. Let's see what healthy roots look like in bark and which ones aren't any good. This is my fowl Baldwin's kaleidoscope. I've had it for about 6 weeks now. It's got two beautiful spikes on it. And here's beautiful foliage. The bark is in pretty good condition. And we see nice green, healthy roots here. Okay, we see a rotted root right down in here. This one. I'm not going to repot it over one rotted root. That's just, this plant will be absolutely fine in this bark at least until spring. I think I'm going to repot this one in the spring, as a matter of fact, into a little bit bigger home. But for right now, this one's fine. So just keep in mind that your roots are going to look a little bit differently in moss and in bark than they did in water culture. And another question I've been having lately is, why do you have your moss in different pots? I find pots at different times from different vendors, from different suppliers, and I like to give things a try to kind of just show you what you can do with your orchids. And I just thought, you know, this would be a really good experiment for me to experiment with a slotted orchid pot, with a conventional orchid pot with the holes in the bottom, and a little container with no holes, and see if there's any difference in how they grow, or if they do better, you know, one pot does better than another. Really, the only difference that I can see in these three methods is that when you grow it with no holes, you can only grow it. I would only recommend you growing a miniature in a small cup in a small amount of moss, like this, with no holes in the bottom. You really need to keep a good airflow around this growing method, because you can get mold easily on the top of your moss if you don't. So I have them underneath my ceiling fan where they get a lot of air movement. Okay, with this one, of course, the water drains out of the bottom of it. These have done very, very well. I really like this method a lot. This has been a traditional growing method for orchids for years. So you have more airflow from the top and from the bottom of this pot. Okay, there were several big machines out there, so I decided to just bring this in instead of trying to speak over it. With my slotted pot here, this has the most air circulation of any of my pots. If you live in a humid environment, this is a really good way to grow in moss. You've got the air circulation from the top, of course, from these slots in the sides, and from the bottoms. You might have to water this a little bit more in a dry environment, but for a humid environment, these are really wonderful to grow in. You could also take a regular orchid pot and just drill holes down the sides for more air circulation. If you're having any problems with mold, that would work. But this has been a really good way to grow in moss. I highly suggest it. So I hope this video helps you all, and if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me, and I hope you have a highly favored, deeply loved, and greatly blessed day. And we'll talk to you all next time.